He was a businessman first, but then in the late 90s, he jump-started his political career. He served on the San Francisco Parking and Traffic Commission, then the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, and from there, his career in politics really boomed. It took off when he was eventually elected mayor of San Francisco. But what happened to his businesses and his involvement in them once he waded into politics? How involved was he, or what did his financial stake look like in Plumpjack?
So when he became mayor in 2004, mayor of San Francisco, he sold off all of his San Francisco-based holdings. Anything that had anything to do with the business in San Francisco, he sold it off to Gordon Getty. But then when he became lieutenant governor of California in 2011, he bought all of those stakes back from Getty using a loan from Getty. And so he still has these stakes, right? And he also never sold off the stakes that he had in the wineries in the Napa area, which is not in San Francisco, and other properties around the state. When he was running for governor, he told reporters that he just couldn't bring himself to sell off, to completely divest himself from his businesses. He called them his babies, his family. He couldn't do it. That might sound familiar. There's another businessman who is in a high-profile political position who did not divest his businesses upon taking office. Unlike Donald Trump, Gavin Newsom did put his businesses in a blind trust. I put quotes around blind because he still knows that his businesses are what's in there, and he has to report the contents of at least some of the contents of that trust on his disclosure, so presumably it's not as blind as one would hope it would be. He has given up all management role in his businesses, and he signed an executive order when he became governor that instructed state agencies to not do any business with Plumpjack. So he's taken a couple of steps to try to separate himself from those businesses. At the same time, his sister and cousin are two of the people who are running the business today. So there's still connections that exist.
I know you said that you went through his state financial disclosures and you said a lot of the details are opaque here, but I'm curious, what did you find out when it comes to Plumpjack? And also, what did you find out when it comes to his personal residences?
Sure. Let's take the Plumpjack properties first. This is how we figured out that he has stakes in the properties that we talked about in the article, right? So he's got a couple wineries in Napa Valley and nearby. That's hundreds of acres of cultivation. And like I said earlier, those we estimate are worth probably collectively about $400 million or maybe a little more. So that's, probably a sizable chunk of his fortune. He still has a stake in that wine store that he opened back in the 1990s and a second location of that wine store that's also in San Francisco. Aside from that, there's a ski-in, ski-out hotel in Olympic Valley. You might know it as Squaw Valley up by Lake Tahoe. There's also a historic restaurant in San Francisco called the Balboa Cafe. Apparently, they're known for their espressatinis and for a burger served on a French baguette. And there's a bar that he owns a stake in called the White Rabbit. So that's the collection of Plumpjack properties that we were able to pull out of his disclosure.
And then when it comes to his personal residences, what does that look like?
So he has two homes as far as we can tell. The first one is just outside Sacramento, the state capital. He purchased that one for $3.7 million in 2019 after he became governor. That one is 12,600 square feet of total living space. Quite the compound he's got there. And he's not living in the governor's mansion. He's living in this compound outside Sacramento instead. The second home was a more recent purchase. He bought that one in just at the end of 2024 for $9.1 million. It's located north of San Francisco Bay in Marin County. That's, San Francisco and the San Francisco area is where he grew up and where he spent most of his time in politics. So it's not surprising he wanted to have a residence there as well. And his kids apparently wanted to move back to the school districts in the San Francisco area. So that's why he purchased that one last year. That one's a 6-bedroom house, 5,500 square feet. It's got a pool, a spa. Looks pretty nice to me.
Sounds pretty nice to me as well. But when you looked at these disclosures, what did you find out about his liquid assets?
Here's another we don't know. He's not required to disclose diversified mutual funds at all on his disclosures. He's also not required to disclose cap gains, dividend income, interest income, that kind of stuff. So we don't have a very good, much insight into those things. If he owned individual stocks in individual companies, he would have to disclose those. And the fact that he doesn't tells us that they're either in the blind trust and they're held in a way that he doesn't know about, and so maybe he doesn't have to disclose those, or he just doesn't own them at all. But with that said, we don't have a very good window into how much he has in liquid assets.
You have a very good window into his wife's finances because you and I talk about how the spouse of a politician sometimes contributes to their net worth or their fortune. How is his wife contributing?
Yeah, Jennifer Newsom, she's a film producer, and her stake in her small film company, according to the disclosures, is worth between $100,000 and $1 million. So it's made some pretty good money. They make documentaries focused on gender representation in film. So that's her contribution to the net worth.
Well, Kyle, thank you so much for your reporting, and until next time.
Great to be here, Brittany. Thanks again.